Our personal journey toward effectiveness begins with the understanding that character is the true foundation of success. We have observed that over the last 50 years, popular culture has shifted away from the character ethic, which emphasizes principles such as integrity, humility, and courage, toward a personality ethic that focuses on superficial techniques and social image. While techniques can provide short-term results, we contend that they fail to address the underlying chronic problems that prevent enduring happiness and success in both our professional and family lives. We realize through our own personal experiences that our efforts to change others, particularly our children, were often ineffective because we were focusing on changing their behavior while failing to examine our own underlying paradigms. We discovered that our perceptions govern our behavior, and if our lens for viewing the world is flawed, our efforts at improvement will be misdirected. This revelation highlighted that primary greatness is found in the development of our own character, which is the necessary catalyst for any meaningful or long-lasting interpersonal effectiveness. Ultimately, we found that principles are like lighthouses that provide unchanging guidance in a turbulent world. We cannot break these natural laws, such as fairness, service, and human dignity. We can only break ourselves against them. By grounding our lives in these principles, we can move beyond the quick-fix approaches of the personality ethic. We are committed to an inside-out approach, where we focus on our own internal growth as the primary means to influence the external world and build stable, productive relationships. A paradigm is a mental map or a way of perceiving the world, and it acts as an explanation for how things should be or how they are. We rarely question the accuracy of these maps, yet they govern our attitudes and behaviors. When we experience a paradigm shift, we see the world in a new light, which is fundamental to achieving quantum change rather than just incremental improvement. These shifts are often triggered by moments of intense realization, where our old ways of seeing the world fail to explain reality. We illustrate the power of perception through the exercise of viewing the young woman and old woman image, which demonstrates that two people can look at the same facts and arrive at different, yet valid, conclusions. Conditioning from our families, schools, and workplaces heavily influences these maps. If we are unaware of our conditioning, we will assume our subjective reality is the objective truth. Developing self-awareness allows us to examine these assumptions and be more open to the perspectives of others. True paradigm shifts move us toward a principle-centered view of the world, providing a higher predictive and explanatory value. We believe that for every 1,000 people hacking at the leaves of evil, there is one striking at the root. By focusing on the root of our paradigms, we can facilitate significant change. We invite readers to adopt a principle-centered map that aligns with natural laws, ensuring that our efforts lead us in the right direction rather than getting us to the wrong place faster. Our approach to personal effectiveness is organized into a sequential, highly integrated framework known as the maturity continuum. We begin life in a state of dependence, relying on others for support. Through consistent growth, we move to independence, where we become self-reliant and responsible. Ultimately, we aim for interdependence, which is the realization that we can achieve our greatest potential by working cooperatively with others. This movement follows the natural laws of growth, taking us from the paradigm of you to I and finally to we. We define a habit as the intersection of knowledge, skill, and desire. Knowledge is the theoretical understanding of what to do and why. Skill is the practical application of how to do it, and desire is the internal motivation that drives the practice. Developing a habit requires concentrated effort in all three dimensions. We recognize that breaking deeply embedded, negative habits involves a tremendous amount of willpower and dedication, much like breaking the gravitational pull of the Earth at launch. This continuum is essential because interdependent success is built upon the foundation of independent strength. We cannot bypass the private victories of self-mastery in our rush to achieve public victories in teamwork. By working sequentially, we ensure that the habits are integrated into our character. This process of balanced growth creates an upward spiral, allowing us to build a foundation of habits that serve as the anchor for our effectiveness throughout our lifetime. The first habit, being proactive, is based on the unique human endowment of self-awareness. While animals are programmed by instinct and training, humans possess the ability to stand apart from themselves and examine their own thought processes. Between the stimulus of our environment and our response to it lies our greatest power, the freedom to choose. Being proactive means we take responsibility for our lives, realizing that our behavior is a function of our decisions rather than our conditions or genetic makeup. We distinguish between proactive and reactive people by observing where they focus their time and energy. Proactive individuals focus on the things within their circle of influence, the factors they can directly control, such as their own behavior and methods of influence. Conversely, reactive people dwell on their circle of concern, focusing on problems they cannot control, such as the behavior of others or national crises. By concentrating on what we can control, we enlarge our influence, whereas focusing on what we cannot control causes our influence to shrink. Our language serves as a major indicator of our proactivity. Reactive language, such as saying we have to do something or that circumstances make us angry, absolves us of responsibility. Proactive language emphasizes our ability to choose our response, such as saying we choose to act a certain way or that we will make a different decision. By shifting our focus from having to be to being, we take command of our lives and become the creative force in our own destiny. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind, is based on the principle that all things are created twice. The first creation is mental, and the second is physical. We encourage individuals to visualize the end of their lives to determine what character and contributions are truly important. This visualization experience helps us distinguish between what we think is important and what is truly valuable. By identifying our end goal, we ensure that our daily efforts are aligned with the principles that matter most, rather than getting caught in the busyness of life. We emphasize the difference between leadership and management. Leadership is the first creation and focuses on the right things, while management is the second creation and focuses on doing things right. Often, people are trapped in a management paradigm, focusing on efficiency, while their ladders of success are leaning against the wrong wall. We advocate for a principle-centered leadership that constantly monitors environmental changes and keeps us heading in the right direction, providing a compass for navigate the complexities of life. Rescripting our lives requires us to examine the scripts handed to us by our parents, society, and circumstances. We use our unique endowments, imagination, and conscience to write our own scripts, ensuring they are congruent with our deep values. This process creates a personal mission statement, a constitution that serves as a solid foundation for every major decision we make. By centering our lives on principles rather than on people, money, or possessions, we gain the stability needed to navigate change and maintain our effectiveness. Habit 3, put first things first, is the day-to-day physical creation of Habit 2. It requires the power of independent will, which is the ability to act according to our values rather than our momentary impulses. We define effective management as organizing and executing around priorities. This involves managing ourselves, not just our time. The focus must remain on the PPC balance, ensuring that we accomplish our desired results without burning out the resources and relationships required to produce them. We utilize the time management matrix, dividing our activities into 4 quadrants based on urgency and importance. Many people are trapped in Quadrant I, the world of crises and problems, or Quadrant 3, the world of urgent but unimportant matters that are dictated by others. Effective individuals prioritize Quadrant 2, which includes activities that are important but not urgent, such as relationship building, planning, and preventive maintenance. We argue that Quadrant 2 is the heart of effective management, and that we must starve our problems while feeding our opportunities. To move into Quadrant 2, we must have the courage to say no to unimportant demands. This requires having a bigger yes burning inside, which is our personal mission and values. By organizing our lives on a weekly basis, rather than just daily, we gain a wider perspective and can balance our various roles more effectively. This shift moves us away from schedule-oriented efficiency toward result-oriented effectiveness, allowing us to maintain integrity to our deep values while remaining flexible to the unexpected needs of others. Delegation is the highest leverage activity in management, as it allows us to multiply our results through others. However, we caution against gopher delegation, which focuses on methods and constant supervision. Instead, we advocate for stewardship delegation, which focuses on results and empowers the individual to decide the methods. This approach takes more time initially, but builds high levels of trust and commitment, significantly increasing the capacity of both the manager and the subordinate. Stewardship delegation requires clear, mutual understanding in 5 areas: desired results, guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences. By defining the what rather than the how, we respect the other person's unique creativity and responsibility. This shifts the focus from managing behavior to managing expectations and outcomes. When subordinates are responsible for their own results, they become self-supervising, which is the most accurate form of accountability. We believe that trust is the highest form of human motivation. By transferring responsibility and resources, we show our faith in the other person's self-awareness and potential. This process creates a synergy where the subordinate takes pride in their stewardship. Over time, this decreases the need for hovering supervision and empowers entire teams to reach levels of performance that would be impossible under the old gopher delegation paradigm. This is the cornerstone of building a high-trust, high-performance organization. Before attempting to work effectively with others, we must acknowledge that public victory is built upon the foundation of private victory. We cannot build deep, productive relationships if we have not mastered ourselves through independence. Once we have established that foundation of character, we can move toward the habit of thinking win-win. This is not a personality technique. It is a philosophy of human interaction that seeks mutual benefit in every endeavor, viewing life as a cooperative arena rather than a competitive one. We identify 6 paradigms of human interaction, with win-win being the most effective for long-term relationships. Other paradigms like win-lose are based on position and power, often stemming from early scripting in family, school, and athletics where winning means beating others. While some situations, such as sports, require competition, most interdependent interactions require cooperation to be successful. Adopting a win-lose mentality in a cooperative environment is fundamentally destructive because it erodes trust and diminishes future opportunities. When we cannot reach an agreement that benefits both parties, the highest form of win-win is win-win or no deal. This option gives us the freedom to walk away from a potential agreement if it does not serve the best interests of all involved. No deal empowers us to be honest and open, as we no longer feel the need to manipulate or force our agenda. It allows us to preserve the relationship, even when a specific project or deal is not appropriate for either side. Character is the absolute foundation of win-win. Without the integrity to keep our promises and the maturity to balance courage and consideration, win-win remains a superficial technique. Integrity means conforming our reality to our words, ensuring that what we say is what we mean and what we deliver. Maturity is the ability to express our own feelings and convictions while showing consideration for the thoughts and feelings of others. It is the balance of courage and consideration that defines effective leadership. An abundance mentality is the third essential trait for win-win. It is the paradigm that there is plenty out there for everyone, which contrasts sharply with the scarcity mentality that sees life as a zero-sum game. People with an abundance mentality can genuinely celebrate the success of others and share recognition and power. This mindset opens doors to creativity and third alternatives, as we stop viewing others' successes as our own failures. This internal security allows us to share credit and work as complementary team members. Building win-win relationships requires consistent deposits into the emotional bank account. Because relationships are constantly subject to expectations, they require regular nurturing. We advocate for making small deposits, acts of courtesy, respect, and deep understanding. Conversely, we must avoid withdrawals such as sarcasm, criticism, or broken promises. Over time, these small actions build the reserve of trust that allows us to communicate effectively and solve problems together, even when differences arise. Habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood, is the key to effective interpersonal communication. We have a natural tendency to diagnose before we prescribe, to offer advice based on our own autobiography before we truly comprehend the problem. Empathic listening is a shift in paradigm where we seek to deeply understand the other person's frame of reference. It is not just about technique or reflecting words, but listening with our eyes and heart to grasp the meaning and feeling behind what is communicated. Most people listen with the intent to reply rather than to understand. We filter everything through our own life experiences, assuming others see the world as we do. This is why many conversations are simply collective monologues. Empathic listening provides psychological air to the other person, meeting their vital need to feel understood and validated. Once this need is satisfied, the person becomes less defensive, more open, and significantly more receptive to our influence or advice. Practicing empathic listening allows us to move from the superficial level of transactional communication to a deeper, transformational level. We learn that 10% of communication is verbal, while 30% is sound and 60% is body language. By listening for the feelings behind the words, we gain accurate data and can avoid the trap of fixing the wrong problem. When we truly understand the other's paradigm, we no longer need to impose our own view of the world, and we can work toward mutually beneficial solutions. Synergy is the highest activity in life, where the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts. It is the practical fulfillment of all previous habits, focusing our unique human endowments, the motive of win-win, and empathic communication on the toughest challenges. Synergy values differences rather than just tolerating them, and it builds on strengths to compensate for weaknesses. It is a creative adventure where we don't know exactly what the end will look like, but are confident that the outcome will be superior to our initial proposals. Synergy is not just a miracle. It is a principle that can be produced consistently if we are open to it. We must have the security to explore new territories and the willingness to move beyond the comfort zones of our own paradigms. It requires a spirit of humility and reverence for the different perspectives others bring to the table. When people collectively subordinate their pride and ego, they create an atmosphere where truly creative solutions can emerge from the interplay of diverse minds. In our interdependent world, synergy is essential. Whether in a family or an organization, diversity of thought and experience is a source of strength, not a problem to be fixed. By valuing different perceptions, we increase our data and awareness of reality, allowing us to find third alternatives that were invisible to our limited viewpoints. When we operate synergistically, we move away from adversarial positions and toward a cooperative culture that respects the humanity of everyone involved. Habit 7, Sharpen the Saw, is the principle of balanced self-renewal. It encapsulates all the other habits because it is the process that sustains and improves our greatest asset, ourselves. We must regularly renew our 4 dimensions: the physical, spiritual, mental, and social-emotional. If we neglect any one of these, we ultimately lose effectiveness in all areas. This is a quadrant 2 activity, requiring proactive initiative as it is never urgent, but always important for long-term health. The physical dimension involves exercise, nutrition, and stress management. By building endurance, flexibility, and strength, we increase our ability to adapt and work. The spiritual dimension is our core, involving values and commitments. It is a private process, whether through prayer, meditation, or immersion in nature, that centers us and aligns our life with timeless principles. This renewal gives us the internal stability needed to handle the pressures of daily life with peace and purpose. Renewal in these areas creates a daily private victory, which provides the intrinsic security necessary to sustain us throughout the day. It is an investment that makes every other activity more productive. When we start the day by centering ourselves, we gain the perspective needed to prioritize effectively and treat others with respect. This habit isn't just about time off. It is about building the capacity to contribute at a higher level, ensuring that we are always prepared for the challenges that come our way. The mental dimension is renewed through continuing education and disciplined study. As we exit the formal education system, we must take charge of our own mental growth. This includes reading quality literature, exploring new subjects, and practicing critical thinking and clear writing. Television and other media are powerful influences, and we must manage our consumption to ensure it serves our mission rather than distracting us from it. A proactive mind constantly seeks to learn and adapt to changing realities. The social-emotional dimension is renewed through our daily interactions. It is about practicing habits of service and contribution, building emotional bank accounts, and learning to empathize with others. While the other dimensions often require specific time blocks, this renewal happens within the normal flow of daily life. It is about how we treat our spouse, children, and colleagues. We strengthen this dimension by consciously choosing to affirm others and viewing their problems as opportunities to build trust. This balance of renewal dimensions is the hallmark of effective living. By regularly sharpening our saw, we ensure that our performance capacity grows rather than declines. We avoid the burnout that comes from overworking without renewal, and we find that the energy expended in self-renewal returns tenfold in the quality of our relationships and the depth of our insights. It is the ultimate investment in our long-term potential for contribution. Renewal is the process that empowers us to move along an upward spiral of growth, continuous improvement, and change. To sustain this movement, we must commit to learning, committing, and doing on increasingly higher planes. It is not sufficient to focus on one of these stages alone. We must cycle through them repeatedly. This is the heart of living a principle-centered life, constantly refining our understanding, strengthening our commitment, and expanding our actions. We must be particularly diligent in educating our conscience, which acts as the guiding light for this upward movement. Just as an athlete must train the body, we must train the conscience through exposure to noble thoughts and the discipline of honest living. When we neglect this duty, we leave our conscience susceptible to being dulled, potentially substituting internal principles with social expediency. An active and educated conscience is the most reliable guide for ensuring that our progress is truly an upward movement rather than just a shift in our direction. As we ascend this spiral, we learn more about the world and ourselves. We see that every mistake is an opportunity for success, provided we acknowledge, correct, and learn from it. This prevents the cycle of self-justification that traps so many individuals in mediocrity. By maintaining this cycle of learning and growth, we can continuously break out of old, ineffective patterns and into new, more expansive potentials, ensuring that we never stop evolving into our best selves. Ultimately, our lives are a testament to our choices. We should strive to live in crescendo, meaning our most meaningful contributions are always ahead of us rather than behind us. Retirement should not be seen as an end to productivity, but as a shift toward different kinds of meaningful projects and service. By refusing to let life be a brief candle, and instead keeping the torch burning brightly, we leave a legacy that is truly impactful for our posterity. We emphasize that no amount of professional success can compensate for failure in the home. The greatest work we will ever do is within our own families. By being proactive and consistent, we can build strong, intergenerational families that serve as roots for our children, providing them with the stability they need to grow and eventually develop their own wings to soar. We should aim to mirror back to our children their true worth, constantly affirming them even when their behavior is less than perfect. We acknowledge that there are parts of our nature that require higher help to heal and develop. We believe that spiritual beings having a human experience benefit from aligning their lives with divine principles. This is not about the denial of our humanity, but the recognition that there is a source of wisdom and peace beyond our own limited capabilities. By staying open to these truths, we gain the strength to love, serve, and try again, regardless of the disappointments and challenges we face along the way. We have explored how the 7 habits build a framework for effective leadership, whether in a person, a family, or an organization. The core of this leadership is moral authority, not formal authority, which is earned through consistent, principle-based behavior. As we align ourselves with universal principles, we find that our influence grows and our capacity to lead others increases. This leadership is not a set of techniques for control. It is an orientation toward enabling the greatness in others. This shift from command and control management to principle-based leadership is the defining challenge of our time. It requires a fundamental shift in how we perceive human potential, moving away from viewing people as expenses or cogs in a machine toward recognizing them as the highest leverage asset in any endeavor. When organizations adopt this paradigm, they unlock tremendous creative energy, loyalty, and commitment from their people, transforming the culture into one where excellence becomes the natural outcome. We conclude by emphasizing that anyone can be a leader because anyone can act according to correct principles. It does not require a title or a position of power, only the initiative to be proactive and the integrity to fulfill one's unique mission. By consistently living these habits, we create a ripple effect that touches countless lives, extending our influence far beyond what we could achieve alone. Our commitment to these principles is our contribution, and through them, we help build a better, more unified world. We reiterate that the 7 habits are simple to understand, but difficult to practice consistently. The struggle to integrate them is a lifelong process that never truly ends. It is an exploration that leads us back to where we began, but with a deeper, more mature understanding. We invite our readers to view this not as a task to be completed, but as a journey to be experienced. The fruits of this journey, peace, effectiveness, and meaningful relationships, are worth every ounce of effort. We address the question of why we chose the number 7, noting it has no special sacred significance, but it provided a logical structure to organize our principles. We believe that if you want to include other habits or values, they are easily integrated into the existing framework, specifically under Habit 2. The framework remains robust and versatile, capable of incorporating any correct principle that you identify as vital for your mission and lifestyle, proving its enduring applicability across diverse cultures and individual circumstances. Finally, we express our profound gratitude to our readers for joining us on this exploration. We are honored to know that our work has touched so many lives, and we remain humble students ourselves. We encourage each of you to continue to practice, to learn, and to strive for constant improvement. Life is a glorious, unfolding story, and each of us is the author. We trust that the principles we have discussed will serve you well in writing a life that is fulfilling, impactful, and enduringly significant.